Welcome to episode number 12 of Find Your Success. Today we have another amazing guest, Matt Williams with Duke City Inspections. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Thanks for being on. It's fun to be able to finally hang out with you and have a quality conversation, a deep conversation.
Right, because we've had a few casual conversations through life, and we've been friends now for a couple of years. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks to the real estate world.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we can just dive right into it. I kind of wanted to start with where you're from. Where are you from?
Well, originally I'm from Portland, Oregon. And,
born and raised?
I was born in Portland, Oregon. Yeah, I moved here when I was 13. My dad got a job, brought the whole family down, and I've been here ever since. So I've been here for just over 30 years now. So this is home. Yeah.
Time goes by fast.
It does. I love Albuquerque. It's a fantastic city with so much opportunity and potential.
I love that we started off with saying that Albuquerque has a lot of opportunity and potential, because I believe the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, why do you believe that?
Well, so Albuquerque is growing, and it is one of the only cities in the Southwest that hasn't had like explosive growth recently. And I think our time for that is coming soon, that we're going to see some explosive growth. Albuquerque is a very cool and unique city, and almost like the best kept secret out there. But I think that it's starting to get some traction. People are starting to see what's here. And I think it's, for that sense of it, the city's growing, it's going to keep growing. I think another opportunity thing in Albuquerque is the business culture. And there's a lot of business owners in Albuquerque, including myself, that really love this city and want to see it be successful. And so I surround myself with those kinds of people all the time. And when you start surrounding yourself with those kinds of people, you start to see more and more opportunity. What you're looking for, you're going to find. Yeah. And I think that the power of your voice, the power of life and death is in the tongue, as the Bible would say. But like what you're speaking, you're going to be manifesting into your life. And so if you're always manifesting, well, this place stinks, I don't like it, oh my gosh, it's too this, too that, if you start looking at all the problems, all you're going to see is problems. Yep. And so I surround myself with people who don't always look for problems. We look for the opportunities. And when you start looking for them, they're everywhere.
I love that. And in a place like this, resiliency, really anywhere, is a key component of living a fruitful and fulfilling life, in my opinion. Yeah. And having quality community, I think, is a key component of being resilient, being able to keep taking those steps with one another instead of doing it alone. Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks for letting me ask you about that. I think that was a fun way to kind of kick things off, because this show is New Mexico based, and this is my home. I'm born and raised in New Mexico, and I love this place. And it's fun to see people who maybe weren't born here, who have moved here, and have a very positive outlook on what Albuquerque can provide, what New Mexico can provide, and what the future holds. Yeah. So thanks for being a part of that community.
Absolutely love being part of it. You're part of it too. I see you out and about on a regular basis. So, yeah. What do you find to be opportunity here?
Opportunity? Kind of like the same thing. I feel like, or I've seen that the cities around us and states around us have seen explosive growth, have really done very, very well. Denver, Phoenix, Texas, you can name multiple places. Yep. But they're all hot spots, it seems like. And Albuquerque does seem to be the hidden gem in the middle. And of course we have our problems, but everywhere does.
Everywhere has a problem, man. Every town has a part of town you shouldn't go into after dark. Like, that's okay. Yes. And people look at the stats and maybe are like bad spots worse than other people's bad spots? I don't know. But, I don't know. I think every city has parts of it that you don't go to after dark. So
that community aspect really, I think, is what can significantly change things. Because if you're going to come here alone, or if you're going to be in the wrong community,
you can find the wrong community in any city, though.
Exactly.
Any city. So you got to be really intentional about who you let into your life. And my dad used to say, "Show me your friends, and I want to show you your future." I tell my kids, it's like friends are like an elevator. They're going to take you up, or they're going to take you down, but they're not going to leave you the same. So you got to make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are taking you up in life, not taking you down.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we need people with that perspective here in Albuquerque, or at least for it to be shared, because it is here.
It is here.
It is here.
Yeah.
Being willing and interested in hearing that, right, and not just shutting that out, I think, is an important part. But we have people like yourself here, like myself and Jonathan, who are here ready to be the elevator ride up and bring our brothers and sisters along with us.
Well, I think that this project you're doing with the podcast is phenomenal because I think it helps amplify the voices that are positive in the city. I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed by some of the negative voices. Maybe it's because they shout louder and I don't know. And so when you have a project like this, it's, man, let's amplify voices that are actually a positive impact in our community.
That's exactly what it's about.
Yeah.
And I mean, studies have shown, or experience has shown, that an equal loss is significantly more painful than an equal gain, which is funny, right?
Yeah.
So we take loss in a much harder way than we do a victory of a similar way.
It's true.
It's funny, yeah. So those hurtful things are louder, but we are here to share the voices of the positive things and to put a spotlight on old school and new school influencers who have philosophies and principles and strategies and tactics that have helped them achieve success not only in the past, but will help them achieve success down the road. So it's been a really fun project. And again, I'm glad you're here in Albuquerque, because if you weren't, we get to have this conversation.
Right.
I'm glad we're on the same elevator together. Well, you're obviously an entrepreneur. We haven't touched on what you do yet exactly, but what got you into entrepreneurship?
Well, I mean, I was in high school, I think, and I was already starting a little bit of a side hustle. I was maybe 14, so maybe a freshman. And of course, I couldn't get a job at that age anywhere, so I started mowing yards in the neighborhood, and that kind of turned into a pretty big thing. And so I was pretty busy with it, and that was my first little business I had started, and then I did dabble in some other things here and there along the way. A little street pharmacy for a hot minute, not long.
I'll teach you something.
And so but then also I've always had a side gig or a hustle or a business or something running. And I think I was maybe 18 or 19 years old when it kind of came to me in an epiphany of I'm not going to work for people. People are going to work for me. And I just knew that about myself deep in my knower. And it was something that I think I had known at a younger age, but it hadn't really crystallized for me until about the age of 18. And so I remember going to college. It was TVI at the time. Now it's CNM. And I was in my first semester of college, and I remember halfway through the first semester, and I was sitting there thinking, this isn't what I want to do with my life. And there's nothing wrong with college. But I stood up and walked out and never went back. And I thought, no, I'm going to forge my own path. And I'm not going to follow in the paths that are already there ready for me. And so I get excited about that, having to forge a new path. I know it's difficult, but I love that journey. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to love the idea of being an icebreaker, someone that's going to go beforehand and break up the ice so that people can follow behind you. And I just knew that's what I was going to do with my life. And so over time, I guess I've owned about 10 or 12 different businesses, and I've bought some, I've sold some, I've won at some, I've failed at others, and so now I'm here.
Yeah. Well, where are you now?
Okay, so I actually am the owner of Duke City Inspections, and we do home inspections and commercial property inspections, environmental inspections and testing. Typically, it's connected to a real estate transaction. When someone's buying or selling a house, or a property, they'll hire us to come in and do an analysis of the condition of that property. And we produce a report, and we kind of go through all the systems. So that's my main business. But I also own a gym, and I own a moving company. I actually run my own podcast, and I have, I tried to start a construction company, and it failed. That was recently. So there was another failure along the way. But
it's part of it.
Yeah, but that's part of it. That's just part of the journey. So I can always have my hands on a few different things. Kind of always have. I can't just do one thing. I guess that's the entrepreneurial spirit, maybe, or just wicked ADHD.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Which one? Who knows?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, about the same.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you definitely have your hands in a few different places. But from what it seems like, it looks like you're having some fun. It looks like you're full. It looks like you're answering a call in your life, and that may or may not be true. But it seems that way, at least from the outside. Getting to watch you from a distance in the real estate world, with me being in insurance. Yeah,
it is. It is interesting. It is a fulfilling experience in some respects, and I think we have different buckets inside of us that get filled by different things. We have a bucket of family and a bucket of love and a bucket of work or different pieces, and maybe there's creativity or whatever it might be that you have inside of you that needs to get filled. And so my mission, purpose, work style, yeah, that definitely fills my bucket.
And work side.
Yeah, for that side of me, of course, but then you still have to think about other things like family and love and romance and things like that also.
Well, this is probably a great segue then for
Yeah.
my next question, which is, at this point, what is Matt's definition of success, considering the different angles, considering the different buckets?
Yeah. So I would say that I define success as is your business doing for you what you want it to do for you? And if you don't know what that answer is, then you're going to be chasing other people's ideas of success in your life. And I've done that, and I'm currently in a readjusting period myself on what is it that I want my business to do for me. And you can answer that same question is with your marriage or with your kids and your family or other relationships. Is this relationship doing for me what I want it to be doing for me? And I think that changes a lot. And so for me, originally it started out with, I want this X amount of dollars or this amount of stuff or this amount of materialistic whatever. And then you start hitting these milestones, and as I start hitting these different milestones of growth, it's like, well, can I sell $1 million a year worth of home inspections? Yeah, check, done. Okay, well, can I sell $1.5 million? Check, done. Can I? And you start setting goals, and you're like, well, after a while, you realize it doesn't matter. You hit that next goal, and you're like, yay, that was cool, but it doesn't really satisfy the way that you think I thought it was going to satisfy. And so having to now reevaluate, what is it that really matters? And so so for me, there's a few things that I've really been working on, and this list is growing and changing, and so it is a living list. But one of them is I need a work-life balance. And I basically slept and worked for many years, 7 days a week, and that's all I did. And so people on the outside go like, wow, you built this company, it looks so big, and now you have other businesses and they're all going, and I'm like, yeah, but I had to pay the price for that too. And that's sleeping and working and and damaging relationships around me, sacrificing things that in hindsight I'm like, golly, I wish I didn't have to sacrifice that. And if I had to go back, I don't know if I would have chosen to sacrifice those things again. But it was what happened.
Yeah.
And so I think if your business is doing so, for me it's like time freedom. I want to have time for my kids. I want to go to their sporting events. I want to be able to go on vacation or take some time off. As an entrepreneur, sometimes that's very difficult to find the freedom to take time off because your business can own you rather than you owning your business. And so I've kind of restructured things to where it doesn't own me like it used to. So now I have time freedom that I've never had before in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing those things.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Many people get caught up in too much of one thing oftentimes, and being able to enjoy the harmony of how all of those buckets work together, I think is a fun thing, but it's not always easy. So,
Well, yeah, because if one bucket is overflowing but the other ones are empty, you still feel empty.
Yeah.
And it's like you need some water in all the buckets, and so you have to, and that's where I got out of balance as a human for a few years there, and my work bucket was full and overflowing, and everybody on the outside is like, wow, look at your work bucket, but my family bucket was suffering, and to be real honest, like I lost a marriage in the middle of all this, and it takes two people, of course, but I can say one of the factors was that I was working so much, and I worked and slept, and I did not fill the bucket of love and family the way I needed to be filling it up, and I was out of balance. And if I could have taken some of that water from the business, pulled it down, and pushed it over, then golly, I think I probably would have more fulfillment and more happiness.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think that's a huge story to hear, something that's very worth thinking through for all of us to just consider what reality is like with all the different pieces.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be super complicated, right? It can feel like it is, but it doesn't have to be super complicated. And oftentimes we have more than enough of most things to do what we're called to do.
Absolutely.
Right? So to not always chase more, but to look at all of our resources as a whole and I guess just make the most with all of them and just see
Yep.
that there's often enough, maybe is what I'm trying to say.
There really is. There's often enough. And, it's like, well, you want to buy that shiny new car. And it's like, well, the one you have gets you from point A to point B. And so does the new one that costs 4 times as much money. Got you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more comfortably, and again, there's nothing wrong with a new car. But if you're chasing that, and I have a nice car or two. And so, it's having nice things isn't a problem, but if you're looking to that to fill your satisfaction bucket, you're going to be left empty pretty quick.
It takes a lot of honesty, really, in the conversation over setting priorities, being ultra honest with yourself, so that, if you get what you're after, or I guess if you get close to the things that you're really pushing hard for, there's no shock. Right, so you probably didn't see what just happened, and that's because Jonathan is amazing. One of the many things that he's capable of doing, and one of these days we'll have him on the show as well. Ain't that right? Maybe. Yeah. He's been hard to wrangle, that's for sure. But he's amazing, so a lot of credit to him. But anyways, now looking forward, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, or where do you feel called to?
So I think my next season of life is, and I kind of look at life that way. There's just seasons or chapters, and when you have page turns, you have things that just happen in life that, whether you wanted them or not wanted them, it is what it is. And you have seasons where the page gets turned and it's time for a new chapter. And so my next chapter is a couple of things. I have these 3 businesses that are working right now and going well. And then I have the podcast, Empire State of Mind, that also is something that's going pretty well right now. But I think my next season in life, I'm preparing, because I want to be more of a business coach. I do a bit of business coaching and public speaking and training and stuff right now, but I kind of want to do more of that. And so I'm writing a book right now. I don't really have a title for it yet, but the general idea is around entrepreneurship and mental health, because the stats around entrepreneurs and mental health is pretty astounding. Most business owners struggle with different levels of mental health. And in fact, the percentage of ADHD and dyslexia are extremely high in entrepreneurs as a percentage compared to the general public. Because that ADHD or that dyslexia turns into a superpower when you're in business. And so how is it that we can take the things that maybe the world says are bad things about us that maybe we can fix or we can harness, but on top of that, how do you battle fear and anxiety and stress and discouragement and depression, and all these different things are feelings that come up in the middle. And it's, you can have I can have a huge win where it's like, man, I landed this huge deal, and like we're super excited about it. Everybody's like, yeah, that's awesome, here comes this big project that we just landed. And by the end of the day, something else could completely happen, and you have a big win and then you have a big loss, and you're like, oh, this thing fell apart, or this key employee just said, I'm going to go do something else and put in a 2-week notice, or there's a disagreement amongst employees and you have to get involved to help sort it out. And so you have such great highs and great lows back to back, and so it can really mess with your mind. And it's like, because one day it's like, man, I'm the best boss ever and I'm crushing it. And the next day you can be like, I am the worst boss ever and I have completely let down my entire team. And how do you manage those ups and downs and the roller coasters of it and deal with your own mental, maybe monsters, like mind monsters. Ooh, we'll call it mind monsters.
Mind monsters.
Yeah. There we go.
Maybe
you heard it first here. Yeah. And so we'll call it mind monsters, but these things in our head that are just fighting it out, and meanwhile you have to keep a straight face to your team. If you're feeling discouraged as the owner,
which is another layer,
you can't come into your office environment and be discouraged. Because everybody starts to think, oh no, what's going to happen? And then they start thinking terrible thoughts like, oh, the boss, are we laying people off? Or are we struggling? What's going to happen? And they start people get a little edgy. So you can't do that as the owner. Obviously, you got to show up as a person who's hyped up about the future and where we're going, but deep down inside you have a completely different perspective that's maybe not based in reality. Sure. But you have to fight through these storms, and it can be a very lonely, isolating place as a business owner with employees to have to fight through the storms of your business while keeping a stoic face up front for your team to say, no, we're going to keep charging, we're going to keep going.
That's an interesting battle. That really is, and it's even hard to to think about and to imagine, to be honest.
Yeah.
To think about the emotional roller coaster, well, and the physical roller coaster that it takes us on ultimately if we let our emotions dictate, our actions. One thing that's helped me in recent times, and I can't remember who said this, it might have been Dr. Jeff Spencer, but it was somewhere along the lines of, when it comes to feeling highs and lows, when you feel amazing, oftentimes you're not as amazing as you think you are, but when you feel like crap, it's often, you're not as crappy as you think you are, right? The lows aren't as low as you think, and the highs aren't as high as you think.
Totally.
And in the midst of being pulled everywhere, I've kind of just had that sitting in the back of my mind thinking, maybe it's not as bad as I think. Or maybe right now it's not as good as I think, so I shouldn't necessarily over-celebrate. Right? I can be grateful and thankful and rejoice always, but not get carried away with things that are not going to get me closer to what's actually most important.
Right.
Yeah, mind monsters. That's an interesting conversation, and I'm looking forward to reading that, checking it out.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it's going to come out. I've just got a few chapters
days.
written, and I'm kind of working on it, and we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it's one way that we'd be happy to support you whenever that does come out.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Now or,
I would love
or
it.
20 years from now.
There we go.
But we'd be happy to support. When it comes to characteristics of people, and I'm kind of tying this back, what are the characteristics that you look for within yourself and in your community that you believe have led you to success, or that will lead others to success?
I think one of them is being resilient in the face of adversity. That's one area that I know has served me well over time, is that when things are really tough, being stable and strong enough to navigate that and continue down that tough battle. That's one for sure.
To not abandon ship.
Yeah, I think people sometimes quit too early on their dreams. I have on different dreams that I had, and so being able to not quit too early, to be able to, I don't know, like stay in touch with the vision of what you have for your life. Because circumstances, oftentimes we look at circumstances to say, am I winning, am I not winning, am I doing the right thing or not doing the right thing? And being really rooted and grounded in like your own identity and like the vision for your life. And then the same thing, you gotta do that for your company. So you gotta set the vision for your company, and you gotta set the vision for what it looks like working in your company. And so having a clear mission statement and vision statement that you actually believe in or actually bought in on, and that you can get your entire team to buy in on. I think that kind of stuff helps with making sure that we don't get distracted and run on rabbit trails, man, because it's so easy to go like just squirrel, and just take off.
Well, especially in the age of instant gratification.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the squirrel you can catch like that, right? When Amazon's delivering things in the day,
Yeah.
right? Or really, it's so easy to get those dopamine hits in a variety of ways.
Oh, yeah.
Right? To check out of a certain vision because you can get that dopamine hit by sitting there scrolling Instagram, which is sad. It's sad that you can experience that dopamine without actually achieving anything. And
It's true.
It destroys a man.
It does. It really does destroy people and messes them up. And so I think you got to catch that vision for your life, but you also have you have to be able to execute on it. I don't really care how much you know about business. I don't really care how much theory you have, and that stuff doesn't really matter to me. It's like, what have you actually accomplished, and what have you actually done? For years of my life, I was actually a pastor of a church, and so I'm still a very strong Christian, and so as a Christian, as a pastor, I used to tell people, it's like, I don't care how much of your Bible that you read. Like, read a little, read a lot, doesn't matter. What really matters is how much are you doing? How much are you applying? How much are you actually executing on? And so it's the same thing in business, same thing in entrepreneurship and in success. So you have a dream for your life. You have success defined, whether that's in entrepreneurship or whether that's working for somebody else. Maybe you have a career aspiration or goal, or a family or financial or whatever it might be. It's like, well, great, dreams are easy. Dreams are free. vision boards. You sit around and map out your vision board. I don't do that stuff, but some people map it all out and they cut out all the stuff and they put it on the wall and they spend an hour or 2 or 5, dreaming about the future and planning it all out and putting it up on a wall. And it's like, that's great. That's cute. I like that. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but so many times it stops there. And then they go to work and they look at the vision board for a little while, and then after a while they stop looking at the vision board, and it just sits there on the wall, and they're not executing on the plan and not executing and making the sacrifices that you need to make to get, it's that same thing, that short-term gratification versus long-term vision for your life. And I've been guilty just like anybody else. But the seasons that I have understood discipline, self-control, and delayed gratification, those are the decisions that I made that oftentimes led to success in the future. I was planting the seeds for the tree that would grow one day and have fruit that I wanted to eat.
Yeah, that's huge. And at the basis of it, you're aligning your actions with the plan. Even when it comes to aligning your actions with the Word of God, right? You're taking one step at a time and aligning yourself with that instead of just learning all of the things without adjusting to it and creating a gap of anxiety because the person you want to be is over here and the person you are is here. But actually following the plan. A lot of people don't do that, whether it's following the Bible or it's a fitness plan or a business plan, it's the vision board. They're, the things that they believe they should be doing are over here, but where they're at is here. And they never bridge the gap.
Oh, yeah.
And
the problem is we live in this age of information to where we all know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, we all know. You know what to do. Like, you know exactly what to do. You know what it's going to take to get your fitness goals. You know what it's going to take to get your financial goals. You know what steps need to be there. And if you don't, you Google it real quick, and they're going to tell you this is exactly what you're going to do. Information and a plan is not the problem. A vision and a dream is not the problem. You need those things. Don't get me wrong. The biggest problem is we just don't do it. I eat that donut when I know that I shouldn't, or I eat that food, or I don't work out, or on my physical goals. And then when I don't do the things that I know I should be doing, and it's funny because I feel like I find myself, and maybe you do too, but you find yourself where I'm not doing the things that I know I should be doing. And these things that I shouldn't be doing, I keep doing.
Yeah.
Like, how crazy am I? Like, how crazy is that? We do the things we're not supposed to do, and we don't do the things we should be doing, and then we realize that we're not making progress in these areas of life that we want to make progress, and then we get frustrated, and then we just want to quit. But honestly, I think we kind of quit before when we stop doing the things we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, well, we try to judge the efficacy of a plan without actually, having tried the plan legitimately.
Yep.
Right? Like, if your gym plan says go to the gym 5 days a week and you're only going 3 days a week, well, you can't be upset as to why your body isn't responding a certain way. You're not following the plan.
Yep.
But most people get upset and say, this plan's too hard, or this plan has issues, and they pick another plan.
Or they're not seeing the results that they want.
Exactly.
And fitness is such an easy one to point at, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go do yoga, and then you're doing yoga for a while, and of course it's sporadic, and you're not doing a great job, and your diet's off, but
no measurements.
you're trying really bit, or maybe you're doing everything just right, and it's 2, 3, 4 weeks in, and you're like looking in the mirror and being like, I don't see any difference. And you're like, maybe I'll try something different, and so then you go start over on a new plan. You get 2, 3, 4 weeks in, and then you're like, I don't know, or you lose motivation, or you're not staying disciplined, or it takes time too. Like, we're planting trees, like we're planting forests, and so we're planting these seeds, and then we're watering it and nurturing it and pulling the weeds out. And so, have you heard about the Chinese bamboo farmer?
I haven't.
They haven't. Okay,
I might have.
Maybe. Okay, so just to refresh you, maybe for our audience, there's this guy that he decides he's going to plant this Chinese bamboo tree. And so he plants the seed deep into the ground, and he gets up in the morning, and he waters it, and he fertilizes it, and he makes sure that everything around it's just fine. And over time, he starts watering and fertilizing and pulling the weeds and tending, and nothing comes out of the ground. A month later, nothing comes out of the ground. At the end of the first year, nothing comes out of the ground. The second year, he waters it, he fertilizes it, he's pretending to it, he's pulling the weeds. At the end of year 2, nothing is there. Year 3, nothing is there. Year 4, nothing is there. Year 5, it comes out of the ground and grows 20 feet into the air. Man, that bamboo tree had overnight success.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it just that he planted and he watered and he tended and he nurtured the seed that was in the ground? And during those 5 years, there was a root system that was growing underground that nobody could see. And all of a sudden, when the explosive growth happens, after 5 years, the explosive growth happens. Everybody's like, wow, look what just happened. I guarantee you, anybody you see that's overnight success has been watering and tilling the soil and not tilling but tending to the soil and pulling the weeds and doing the disciplines for years before you start to see it grow. And the real success and wild success tends to happen down the road, and it's years of experience that gets you there.
I think that is an excellent example to share with this community.
Yeah.
Really, I was having a conversation about that just yesterday, actually, about how almost every single overnight success wasn't as it seems. They actually had a very deep-rooted root system. Very deep root system.
Yeah.
Right? Something that was very vast and had been worked on and loved on for years.
Mm-hmm. And even more than that, like we have to look at our past successes and failures and go back and look, not with a lens of regret or anything that's unhealthy, but go back and look and analyze an autopsy and go, okay, what did I go wrong? What did I learn, and how do we apply this moving forward? So I'm 45 years old, and I started this inspection company. We're recording in April of 2024 right now. My first inspection was in April of 2019. So this month is our 5-year anniversary of being in business.
Congratulations.
The first guy that booked our inspection went to our website, booked it online. I showed up, and as soon as the client was out of earshot, he's like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I was trying to hire this other company. Who are you?" And so my first inspection I ever got booked was actually an accident. They tried to book a different company.
Hilarious.
And I was
That's
like,
all she wrote.
and I was like, "Well, I'm here now." And he's like, "Well, you better do a good job." And I was like, "All right." And I don't know if I did. He's never called me again, just for the record. Yeah, and I won't mention names because he's still in real estate.
That's
and
hilarious.
if he ever sees this video, he's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy." Worst inspection of my life.
Well, maybe you'll put it together now. It's your first one.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I mean, he probably did at some
hilarious.
point. Yeah, so it's pretty funny. But so I started that thing. So here's what happened: is in my second year of business, I broke the $1 million mark in my company, and to put that in perspective, the home inspection industry was a one-man in a van type industry up until maybe 10 years ago. And so one man in a van, he was, Bob the inspector or whatever, he would go out and do inspections. And then maybe 10, 15 years ago, the idea of, well, maybe we have multiple inspectors under one company roof that's going out and doing inspections started to emerge. About 10 years ago, the idea of, could you potentially build a home inspection company doing $1 million of revenue? Is that possible? And there were guys that were doing it, but it took them many, many, many years to get there. And so when I broke the $1 million mark in my second year of business, I actually was winning awards. People were across the country, national awards in the home inspection industry. I won something called Rookie of the Year award on a national conference, and they were like, "Wow, this guy's growing so fast and so quickly." And what's the secret to your overnight success, right? And I'm like, well, after 20 years in business and having learned how to win and fail and lose and gain and everything else that I was doing, like, it's not overnight success. I just took 20 years of business and applied it into this business, and now you see rapid success. And anybody you see out there that has explosive growth, I guarantee you there is a story and a background behind it. And it's not like, I don't know, I just woke up one day and decided to do this and made a whole bunch of money. There's normally a lot that's going on behind the scenes.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think there's a sense of security and safety in having a deep root system like that, right? And being able to effectively look in the mirror and look back at all of your past experiences and use those as a tool moving forward. I think there's what a blessing to be able to look back like that ultimately, and to not just forget those things or to move past them, but to leverage them for your next adventure.
Yeah, I think regret and rumination can destroy a man. And I think everybody battles that on some level.
Yeah.
But looking back at failures with regret and ruminating on them and just kind of continuing to relive the emotional pain of that. There's a season of grieving, but a loss, so whether it's financial or family or personal or whatever else, but also learning how to shift into a season of gratitude for even the worst things that could have potentially happened in your life. And I don't know, you have to be able to shift that. That's something that's a mental mindset that has to be in place.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you learn from the past mistakes and autopsy, figure it out where you went wrong, and then apply those lessons and moving forward. Well, now that thing isn't really a loss. Yeah, it was a failure, but I'm not a failure.
Yeah.
Right?
Now that's huge for resiliency, having that sense of respect for yourself and separating yourself from the mistakes.
Yeah, I failed, but I am not a failure.
Yes.
Failure is an action, not an identity.
Yeah. Yep.
And so getting comfortable with my own loss and failure whenever I've had losses and failure in life, and how even painful they are in the moment, learning that my identity is not rooted in my actions. And actions can be changed. And so learning from that, moving forward.
Yeah, well, hindsight's 20/20, as they say. So being able to
Absolutely.
look back, there's a lot of gold there that people miss, and having that root system, things that typically grow fast without the roots, also tend to fall fast.
Yeah, they do.
So
they do.
It is very important to have those roots. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost done here.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would like to wrap up our conversation with? Any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our community, with New Mexico?
I think I'm completely tapped out.
Completely tapped out. That's good. That's good. That's
got it
what
all
we're
out of
going
me.
for. Well, last but not least, this is the first time we've done this within a recording.
Okay.
So give me a second here. Welcome to the club.
All right, look at that.
Yeah, thank you for your
I even have the
contribution.
card to prove it.
Yeah, I mean, you can
The card carrying.
This only other contributors have seen that card, but
Ooh,
the
this
YouTube
is nice.
Society has not seen that. So if you want to hold up the camera, you can. So welcome to the club. Thank you for contributing.
I'm now a card-carrying member.
Yeah, we're doing some cool stuff behind the scenes, and I'll fill you in as soon as we get this recording shut off. But
I love it, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah.
I love being here, and it's fun to chat with other like-minded people.
Good. I'm glad you had a good time. How could we support you? How could people follow you?
Yeah, so if you want to get in contact with me, on Instagram, you can find me at the.matthew.williams at Instagram personally. If you go there, you can find links to my other businesses and my podcast there. My podcast is called Empire State of Mind, and it is about building an empire of businesses and what's the mindset required to build multiple companies out. And we have incredible guests on the show. Follow us. We're audio only, but we are on everywhere: Apple, Spotify, just all the different podcast platforms that are out there.
Sweet. All right. Well, thanks for being on. It
Yeah.
really was my pleasure, our pleasure, and I think that's it.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. That's episode number 12. Can't believe it. Of Find Your Success. We will see you next time.